Computers are made up of a lot of different parts. Some connect to the outside of a computer, some connect to the inside. In this lesson, we're going to take a look at the inside of a desktop computer and identify some of the key internal components that allow a computer to function. Here's our computer. As you can see, there are a lot of different components inside. The first one you might notice is this big square one here. This is called the power supply. The power supply converts AC power from the wall into DC power that can be used by the computer. Next, you might notice this big fan here in the middle. This is the CPU fan and heatsink, which sits directly on top of the CPU. CPUs generate a lot of heat. The CPU fan and heatsink pull heat away from the CPU and dissipate it, which cools off the CPU. Without this, the CPU would actually overheat. If we remove the heatsink, we can see the CPU, which is this metallic square here. Now, you'll notice that everything in the computer, including the CPU, is connected to the same component here at the bottom of the computer case. This component is called the motherboard. The motherboard is kind of like the heart of the computer. It contains all of the wiring and circuitry that is necessary for the different components to communicate with each other. Over here are the computer's memory modules, or RAM. Memory modules are inserted into these memory slots here on the motherboard. This is where data that the CPU is currently working on is stored. Now remember, this memory is short-term storage. When the power supply is turned off, the data in these modules will be erased. To store data long-term, we use a hard disk drive, which is this component here. Hard disk drives can be easily identified by their size, appearance, and the cables used to connect them to the motherboard. Most hard disk drives use this thin cable here called a SATA cable. Another storage device you can see here is an optical disk drive. You can see the back end of it here. This particular one is a DVD-ROM drive. Optical drives are larger than hard disk drives and typically use an IDE cable to connect them to the motherboard. However, some newer optical drives use SATA cables. Notice how both of these storage devices have two cables connected to them. One cable connects the device to the motherboard, the other connects the device to the power supply to provide power. The last component we'll look at is called an expansion card, which is the card sticking out of the motherboard right here. Expansion cards are inserted into a motherboard's expansion slots, these slots right here. Expansion cards are used to customize a computer so it can perform a desired function. For example, this particular expansion card is a high-end graphics card, which allows this computer to play the latest PC games. Other types of expansion cards include audio expansion cards and networking expansion cards. So, those are the key internal components of a desktop computer. Take time to memorize these components. As a PC technician, you should be able to open up any computer system and immediately point out the components we covered in this lesson.